Gam Anon, 4th steps. Serenity, courage, wisdom. The truth shall set you free. A guide to 4th step inventory. Introduction. In Gam Anon, we are asked to take a fearless and searching moral inventory of ourselves. Many people resist taking this inventory for fear of what they will find. This inventory is not meant to tear us down. By the time we enter Gam Anon, we have already been torn down. An inventory is simply a way to get us to know ourselves better. Why do we behave as we do? How do we behave? How do we think? Who are we? What are our values, our priorities, our fear, our dreams, and hope? Are we who we think we are? Do we fall short of our own image of ourselves? Are we ashamed of who we have become? Are we satisfied with ourselves and the way we live our lives? Some people put off taking step 4 because they fear they will then have to change. Step 4 does not ask us to change. It merely asks us to take a look at ourselves honestly. Step 4 prepares us for the following steps, in which we determine what area might be changed. In step 5, we share what we have found. We get clarity and insights from others. In step 6, we decide if we want to make changes. Are our defects getting in the way of living as we would like to live? Are we entirely ready to change? And in step 7, we ask our higher powers for help in making these changes. But in step 4, we need only have the courage to examine what is. We might look at this step as an adventure. We are searching for a hidden treasure, and the hidden treasure is us. At first sight, the questions we put forth seem to require a simple yes or no. However, the deeper we consider them and explore them, the higher insight we will gain into ourselves. This is strongly suggested that we do our inventories in written forms. Many of us have found that once we sit down to write, the pen frantically moves by itself. Remember, there are no right or wrong answer. There are just our own answers. The inventories is not designed to be completed within 1 or 2 hours. Take as much time as you need. Many of us have found it helpful to do a question each night, sharing our inventory with a trusted person, with trusted others in our step 5. Some Gam Anon wishes to share what they have written as they go along. Others prefer to do the inventory in its entirety before sharing it. Some of us find it motivating to do the inventory with our partner, a buddy, with whom we can share our feelings. We may wish to do it with a group, or we may prefer to do it alone. We may share our findings right away, or we may hold off sharing the inventory. Either way, it is important that we do it. Some of us have done a writing inventory more than once. Notebook in hand, we are free to reuse this guide and revisit our inventory in the future. Table of contents. Reflection of hitting bottom, page 2. Reflections on humility, page 4. Reflection on anger, forgiveness, healing, page 6. Reflections on attitudes and hope, page 8. Reflections on relationship to money, page 10. Reflections on relationships with others, page 12. Reflections on fear, page 14. Reflections on responsibilities, page 16. Reflections on self-worth, page 18. Reflections on honesty, page 20. Reflections on tolerance, page 22. Reflections on control, page 24. Reflections on love, page 26. Reflections on spirituality, page 28. Reflections on trust, page 30. Page 1. We wish to extend a special thank you to the many Gam Anon members who contribute their writing for this book. We hope their personal reflections are a source of inspiration in your fourth step journey. Reflection on hitting bottom. I will never forget the darkest times of my life. My gambler was still doing the wrong things after 3 years in the program. I lost all hope that he would ever change. I couldn't stand my life, but I wasn't doing anything to change it. I blamed him for everything. Each day I felt more stuck and despairing. I put on weight. I smoked pot to dull my pain. I took my anger and frustration out on my child. I saw each day as a druggery that I just had to get through. There was no joy, only fear, misery, depression. I hated everything about my life, but most of all, I hated what I become. I could no longer even look in the mirror. The day I dragged my son through the hallway after I knocked it over his block, screaming the whole time and preparing to light up a joint at 10 in the morning. I knew I had reached my bottom. Forget about the gambler. Look at what has become of me. Never, never, never will I allow myself to sink to such depth again. Standing on the edge of this platform, I thought of leaving the world with its endless pain. I couldn't stand it anymore. I feared for my future and that of my unborn child. In the distance, I could hear the rumble of the approaching train. Was it courage I needed to jump? What was a nice girl like me doing in a place with these thoughts? I cannot imagine myself at any lower point in my life. Humiliation and the degradation. This description of my life is where I venture as compulsive gambling progress in our home. And so it was inevitable that I begged the grocer to sell me a single small onion for all of 2 cents, which he would retrieve from a sealed 3-pound bags of onion. I urged him to do this under the guise of my not needing so many onions. One would do. Little did he know the small amount of change I had in my pocket was all I had. Nor did he know how far it would have to stretch. How could God do this to me? What did I do to deserve this? And so, my spiritual bottom came when I abandoned my faith, my religion, my God. It was even harder getting through the tough time without my usual spiritual support. Yet it never occurred to me to allow my abandoned faith to work for me, to uplift me. In my loneliness and despair, I had given up on the constant source of hope and faith. How ironic that as I spiraled downward, I chose to let go of the rope. 1. Can I recall a day, time, or event which I would categorize as my bottom? A. What was my physical low point? B. What was my emotional low point? C. What was my spiritual low point? 2. What was it about me that allowed me to sink to such depth? 3. How will I ensure that this never happens to me again? Page 4. Reflection on humility. People used to tell me that I was a saint to live with my compulsive gambler. After all, look at what he had done. In my relationship with him, he was always wrong, and I was always right. As I come to understand myself better, I realized that I really didn't think a whole lot of myself. I needed to do better than someone, and my husband's failure only served to boost my ego. At least I was better than someone else. I was always much harder on myself than on anyone else's. You could make a mistake, but if I made a mistake, I would obsess over it and beat myself up over it. I had to learn to be kinder to myself, recognize that I am only human. Sometimes I obsess over regrets about something I said to someone. I need to remember that I'm not all that important to the person to whom I made the remark. They are focusing on their lives and most likely are not going to replay my remark over and over as I do. I should remain humble and realize that in the world at large, I am not so important. Reflections on humility. Question 1. How has false pride kept me from looking at myself? 2. Do I feel superior or inferior to others? 3. Do I accept my strength as well as my weaknesses? 4. Can I accept that in spite of all I know, there is still more to learn? Do I understand that my gifts are gifts and that I should nurture them? 6. Can I make a mistake without getting angry at myself? 7. Do I minimize, pardon, or excuse my faults? 8. Can I love myself in despite of my faults? 9. Do I like myself? 10. Am I willing to admit I don't have all the answers? Am I teachable? 11. Can I take instruction, or must I always be in charge? 12. Have I allowed arrogance to play a part in my life? 13. Can I be myself wherever I am? 14. When I look in the mirror, what do I see? How does this make me feel? 15. How has striving for perfection helped or hindered me in my life?